Do you want to start meal prepping and don't know where to begin? Or maybe you're a meal prep pro and you're looking for fresh inspiration. Maybe you're working on a health and fitness goal and think meal prep might be a good fit for you. Or maybe you've been considering meal prep because you're looking for a lifestyle change that feels sustainable instead of a temporary short-term detox or diet to kickstart your health. Or maybe you're trying to save money by not eating out as much. Or you're trying to remove a layer of decision fatigue from your week and free up your mind to think about the things that matter most to you. If any of these sound like you, you're in the right place. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been with me here for a minute, welcome back to the Meal Prep Perspective. I'm Lisa, and I prepare nutrient-dense, high-protein foods without food rules. And that aligns with my active lifestyle, living in New York City, and working in the health and fitness industry. By meal prepping, I save time, money, and create a lot of mental space throughout my week so I can stay focused on my goal of helping people through preventative health practices like strength training and nutrition coaching. Meal prep is part of my passion, and I love sharing my process in an authentic way. So you'll see my honest take on meal prepping, and I love to learn from my community as much as I can. So please consider this your invitation to comment, ask questions, and engage with this incredible community here. Know you being here means so much to me. And we'll begin. This week for my meals, I'll start with lunch because I know it'll take the longest. I'm starting it out with butternut squash that's already pre-cut, and I'm gonna wash it as well. When I know I'm short on time or I really just need meal prep to move a bit quicker than normal, I'm happy to pay a bit of a premium for some pre-cut vegetables, some things that are packaged. And again, it's usually a little bit more expensive, but in this instance, it saved me a ton of time and wrestling to cut a butternut squash, although I recently did learn a new way to cut it to make it a little bit easier. But cutting a butternut squash is always, a fun adventure. So the fact that I paid just a little bit more and it was all pre-cut really was worth it to me in this instance. But I always wash my pre-cut veggies unless it specifically says it's washed. This doesn't say that it's washed, so a little bit of water on there. You don't need to wash them in anything other than water. You don't need to soak them in vinegar. That's a common misconception. If it makes you feel better to soak them in a water vinegar mixture, then do it, but it's definitely not required. So I'll get them, I dry them off and spilled them on the counter, oops, but I'll get them onto my sheet pan and onto the next. Since I'll be roasting these, I'm going to add some olive oil on top, but before I do, I'm going to arrange them a little bit. I know this is probably what did someone say once someone commented that I was very finicky, I forget. But I am, because if I don't rearrange these, some of them, they won't cook evenly because they're all different sizes. They're not perfectly cut. So they're larger pieces, I always move to the outside because they're going to get the most direct heat from the oven, and the smaller pieces I move into the middle, so that way they don't get burned in the middle. And again, this isn't a perfect thing, but I try to do it every time just so everything cooks a little more evenly, especially when everything's a different size. So now that I got my olive oil down and my butternut squash arranged correctly, I'll add some salt and pepper. Oh, the word I think was fussy, that I was a little fussy. Maybe I am a little fussy. Oh well, I like it. I'm adding some ground pepper on top here, and when I do, I always make sure I kind of lean back so I don't accidentally inhale it. That is not fun. And I'm also grabbing some taco mix from my spice drawer. I had purchased this. You can make your own. I always like to buy the ones that don't have sugar in them, not because sugar is bad and I'm demonizing sugar, but because I hate the flavor of the sweetness of the sugar. The vegetables that I'm using, they have a bit of sweetness to them too, so I don't need any sugar. And I decided to leave this in here for y'all because I thought you might laugh with me or think it was funny that I got my apron stuck in the cabinet when I shut it. So, just a little bit of me showing you the realness of meal prepping and me in the kitchen. So I'm gonna add some spicy elements here because I like taco mix, but I like spicy too. So if you don't like spicy, don't add it. But this is some crushed red pepper flakes that I like to grind up in I reused a grinder from a previous spice mix, and then also some smoky paprika. Initially, I didn't think that I would toss this together, but I just decided I wanted to just make sure it was better incorporated. So, yeah, here I am again. I'll rearrange all of my butternut squash to be in the right sizes, as I explained a minute ago. But yes, sometimes I mix these types of things together, other times I don't. I just decided this one I would because I really wanted that taco flavor to be on every little crevice of every little piece of and every little nook and cranny of my butternut squash. So I'll get those rearranged, and once they're situated, I decided I would wash my hands so I didn't touch my pan again with spicy fingers. And then I forgot, I'm so glad that I remembered, I was going to throw an onion onto here as well. So they'll definitely cook at different speeds. So just keep an eye on your onions. I tried to position the bigger pieces toward the outside and the smaller pieces toward the middle, but keep an eye on this because they won't cook at the same exact time. And you could always add them on later. I just decided I wanted to just kind of take the risk and do them all together. So I'll add those in here, and into the oven they'll go. And next we'll get started on the thing that will take the next longest amount of time, which is breakfast. So I'll get my sheet pans out. I'm using these to make it even easier to put my meal prep containers when I take them in and out of the oven. And I'll get out 2 mixing bowls. From the freezer, I'm gonna grab some frozen, what do I have? Raspberries, yay! I'm gonna make a raspberry and Meyer lemon protein breakfast bread, loaf, bar, whatever you want to call it. I feel like I still haven't fully coined the best term to describe it, but I'll get those frozen ones into my microwavable dish, and then I'll pop that into the microwave. We'll let the raspberries thaw in the microwave, and in the meantime, I'll get my ingredients out to assemble my protein bar, bread, quick bread, pancake. Either way, whatever you call it, it's my most requested recipe. It's my favorite recipe. It is such a great, easy recipe. It's impossible to mess up. Yes, I said that. It is impossible to mess up. The recipe is on my blog, and you can really change it up if you don't have egg, if you don't have a ton of fruit, if you have a lot of fruit, if you want to make it savory, you could do that too and not add any of the sweetness. So yeah, it's really versatile. I'll get the ingredients in here, and then I'll grab those raspberries when they come out of the microwave. Here I'm adding in whey protein. It's definitely my preferred protein for baking or drinking, honestly, for that matter. I'm not a huge plant protein fan, only because of the texture. I feel like it's very gritty. It's just, and dairy is fine for me, so I'm okay with that. But I can link this one if y'all want it, just let me know. And I definitely prefer using vanilla protein, because then whatever flavor you want it to be, if you're adding a different fruit, it kind of goes well with everything, unless of course you were doing like a savory vibe, and then I wouldn't add it at all. I'll check out my raspberries. The microwave went off, but I don't think as I looked at them, I was like, I don't think they're fully defrosted. So I put them back in, and we're going to defrost them just a little bit more. They don't really need to be like warm, or cooked in any way, but I don't really want them frozen. I feel like when they're actually frozen, they don't mix in as well. Just preference. And I've got my Meyer lemons here. I'm going to start by zesting them because I definitely don't want to lose out on all of that. But before I do that too, I'm going to get my container set up because then I'll just make it a little bit easier as we continue. Once the containers are out, I'll get them sprayed with cooking spray. I prefer coconut oil spray. I don't always love coconut oil spray for everything, but for this, it seems that this spray specifically covers the meal prep container really well, and there's nothing worse to me when they're stuck to the meal prep containers. So that is the one thing about using glass. It's not necessarily non-stick, so you have to add some kind of cooking spray. So my raspberries are all thawed. They look great. They're defrosted, and I'm just going to stir them up, but I'm also going to smush them a little bit. I'm going to mash them a little bit too. So I'm not going to do it to all of them, but I am going to do that to some of them. I feel like it just, I like the way that you kind of get a variety of different sizes of raspberries when you're eating this then. So I'll do that, and then I'll get my Meyer lemon zested. If you tried Meyer lemons before, have you tried Meyer lemons before? I'm kind of obsessed with them, like actually obsessed. They are a mix between an orange and a lemon, and they are just, wow, everything. I love them, especially as it's getting warmer and spring, entering into summer. So I'll get those lemons zested, and then I'll slice them in half and get the juice of the lemons into the raspberry and zest mixture as well. I'll continue on with more of my wet ingredients. Next, I'm going to add in my olive oil and my honey. I always like to add the oil in first into the measuring cup first, because then when I add the honey in, or if you did like maple syrup or something instead, or agave, it wouldn't stick, which is seriously the best hack ever. Also, you'll see that I struggled a little bit with one-handing opening the honey. But if you do it this way, then it doesn't stick. And you also don't feel like you have to add sweetener in here as well. It's fine without it. It really just depends on the fruit that you're using and if it's super sweet. If the fruit has a lot of sugar, or it's just really sweet for you, then you don't probably need to add honey. Or depending on the protein that you add into, that will depend on how sweet it is. So some people might want a little bit more or a little bit less depending on those two factors. Once I get those in there, I'll mix them up, and then I'm also going to add in some milk. And again, that could also be, this recipe is so versatile. That could be milk. I'm using dairy milk. You could use non-dairy milk. You could also just use water if you want to keep it a little lower calorie or less expensive instead of adding the milk. So completely up to you. I started to mix my dry ingredients, and then I remembered I forgot I was gonna add eggs here. So I'm gonna grab my eggs. I'll add them into the wet ingredient mixtures. But remember, you don't have to add eggs here if you don't want to spend the money. You're allergic to eggs. You don't like eggs. Whatever. You don't have to add them. The recipe will turn out just fine. So since I had them, I'm gonna add them. But yeah, I'll get them mixed into my wet ingredients. I may or may not have spilled some raspberry onto my apron. Wah, sad. Be careful with these, especially berries, they will stain. I'm gonna add my wet ingredients into my dry, and then I'll mix that up. I'm being careful here to not over mix or also make a mess, so I'm doing this cautiously. I don't want to over mix this, but I also want to make sure everything's incorporated really well, and you'll see in a second the color that this turns is just really pretty. And this would also make such a pretty birthday cake. I've never done that before with this recipe, but I feel like it would turn out really well. So maybe I should try that for the next friend's birthday that's coming up. And a note here, when I portion anything out, you probably notice that I add like an estimated amount to each container, and then a lot of times I have to go back in and add more. For me, I found this is way less annoying than adding too much and then having to kind of like scoop it out of the other container and redistribute. So I'll add in what I think is the right amount and then adjust based on how much I have left. And this takes practice because you guys see I do this every week. I've done this for years and I still like mess it up. So just do your best. And for me personally, I always err on the side of making too much. That's a privilege. I definitely know that. But I always err on the side of making too much. And like, for example, like the day that I made this, if I had way too much, maybe I would have had this as part of like my lunch or dinner that day. And you can do that too. So on the day you're cooking, that could be, your meal might just be like if you make too much of one of the other meals, which is often what we do. So that works for me. Let me know if you think that'll work for you. If not, we can strategize some other ideas. All right, so for the second half of breakfast, I decided I wanted to try something different. You guys have probably seen the past few weeks, I've been making what I have dubbed express eggs, aka eggs in the microwave with alongside another meal prep item. So I decided this week I was gonna roast some frozen cauliflower. I had purchased fresh cauliflower and ended up not using it. Using this bag of it, so I had some left over. So I decided I would love roasted cauliflower with my eggs too. So I'm gonna roast that because I don't think that would microwave very well in like an express egg situation setup. So I'll portion out the cauliflower and I'll roast that in the oven as well. I sprayed some olive oil down too. I probably could have added salt and pepper here too, or just added the eggs in, but you know, I was just experimenting and having fun, trying out some different techniques. Now the breakfast is in the oven. I'm gonna check on my roasted butternut squash and onions and see how we're doing here. So of course I gotta give it a little taste test. There's nothing better than a roasted onion. Yum. Really, I just wanted to check and make sure that the onions weren't completely burnt to a crisp, and honestly they look okay for the most part. So you can definitely see the ends of them are getting crispy. So I'm just gonna mix them up on the sheet pan and just kind of redistribute them, again trying to keep those bigger pieces toward the outside and the smaller pieces toward the inside. Then I'll spray just a bit more olive oil on them and put them back into the oven. Next, I'll get my rice cooker set up. I'm using brown rice this week. Always remember to rinse your rice. Doesn't matter what kind of rice you're using, please rinse it. So I'll let that get started and I'll take a quick little coffee break. You know, this chef needs some caffeine, followed by some water, of course. And I'll get started with my instant Instant Pot. I've got it heating up on the saute function. So I'll add some olive oil in, let that get hot, and then add in my beef. Of course, I washed my hands before I moved on to this next part. Very hard to do one-handed, so I tried to show y'all the cup that I was using before I did it. So I added in soy sauce, gochujang, rice vinegar, and actually, have you guys tried gochujang before? Is that something that you cook with regularly or you've been curious about? It's a newer ingredient for me, and I really, really enjoy it. It's like kind of like spicy ketchup, but I'm obsessed. So I added that in here and stirred that all together, and this will be like the base for my sauce. So I'm also adding in some ginger. I didn't have fresh ginger, so I used these little cubes of ginger that are frozen, and lots of onions and lots of garlic as well. So I got that mixed up, and then I realized I think I need a little more sauce in here too. So I did add some more of the same ingredients, just kind of like doubling the original sauce that I made. And personally for me as a chef, as someone who cooks a lot, being flexible has become one of my greatest accomplishments. I think it's something I'm really proud of, and that's because I've messed up and made so many things that weren't really great in the past. But that's really how things work, right? It's not that things get easier, we just get better. And that is really a quote that I say a lot, and I remind people of a lot too, because I think, we think, oh, things just get easier as you go. No, I think things get much harder. I think we just get better. Our tools get sharper, we're sharper. All right, we'll continue. So I got those out of the oven. I'll show you how I served it too in my express egg situation. So I added my egg in. Yes, I got some shell on the other side. Oops, oh well, got it out of there. So I'm gonna scramble that in here, and then I'm gonna pop this into the microwave, and I'll show you how it turned out. I was a little bit nervous that this wouldn't turn out as easy as the other ones, only because I was worried the eggs wouldn't cook through all the way. So I really made sure to scramble them really well so everything was incorporated well, and I added some salt and pepper into. Then they went into the microwave. So timing on this, I definitely checked them a few times. So I kind of moved it around and tried to flip it over and say is this actually cooked? And I was satisfied that it was cooked all the way. So I flipped it over and I added some hot sauce, my new favorite hot sauce, and absolutely delicious. And the protein bar was also chef's kiss, perfect. Now we're back to meal prep day. So I got those out of the oven, all of those things, put them onto the side so they could cool down. And now we'll head back to lunch. And I'm gonna get some olive oil into my pan while it's heating. I'm gonna drain and rinse my black beans. I use 2 cans here. You can use other types of beans. I had black beans. I love black beans. Definitely you can use these from dry if you prefer to. But I'll get, once those are rinsed, I'll pop back over, I'll saute my ground turkey, and I'll add in the rest of that taco mix. So if you remember, I left some, I didn't use the whole container earlier, so I really wanted to distribute the flavors throughout the meal. So this is that lunch meal that's taco flavored. So I'll get that mixed up here and incorporate it into the ground turkey. And once I do, then I'll add in my black beans. I'll mix the beans in well, so they're gonna get that seasoning too. And I'm also gonna add a small can of fire roasted green chilies. I love this. This is not spicy to me at all. Maybe it's spicy for other people, but for me, this is not spicy at all, not even a tiny bit. I just like the flavor that it adds. So I'll also fill that same can with water and add that in here too. So I do want just a little bit of moisture in here so everything can come together. And I also decided, of course, to make it spicier, I added some of that smoky and hot paprika and chili powder. This also would have been fantastic with some fresh jalapenos. Next time I make this, I think I've got to add some fresh jalapenos in here because your girl loves spicy. And speaking of some more flavor I'm gonna add, I'm also gonna rinse and drain some cilantro. So I know cilantro is one of those things you either love or hate. So for me, it's a love, but oddly enough, it used to be a hate. So that changed for me. I'll cut the stems off and just set them aside for now. And I'll chop up my cilantro, pretty fine dice, I suppose. And I'll add it in right at the end here. So the flavor will stay really bright. And we're moving right along. I'm gonna check to make sure that my containers are cooled. They're, always give them a feel on the bottom to make sure if they're cooled off yet. They're cooled off, so I'll pull them off of the sheet pan and get them onto the countertop. And same thing for my butternut squash onion taco mixture. And I'll get my other containers set out in the meantime as well. And it's time for this chef to take a little snack, which I usually do off camera, but decided I would show you guys this time. So I ate one of my most favorite things in the whole wide world as a snack, a sumo orange, a sumo citrus. If you've ever had one, if you haven't had one, what are you waiting for? Consider this your sign to try it. It is the best orange I've ever had, the best type of orange I've ever had ever. And I realize now that I'm also wearing an orange shirt, so maybe that was like subliminal in some ways. But I am obsessed with sumo citrus oranges, so give them a try. So post snack, I'll get back on it, and I'm gonna get my butternut squash and onion mixture distributed between my containers. And once that's distributed, I'll get my ground turkey bean mixture onto the counter, because I'm gonna add it right on top, because we're kind of going for like taco bowls, easy breezy, just like grab and go. I'm only using one side of the container. I've just recently switched to doing this. Well, not super recently, but within maybe the last like 6 months, year. So anyway, I'll get that distributed into the containers, and then we'll be on to the next, which is, we're almost there. We're almost to the end. If you've made it all the way here with me too, you deserve an award. Thank you. And you definitely have my appreciation. As you know, for creators on YouTube, every minute you watch really helps us. So thanks for watching all this time. As far into this video as you made it. I really appreciate it. Back to cooking though. I'll let the steam out of the Instant Pot, and then I'll get my brown rice into my dinner containers. And once I got that all portioned out, I realized that, oops, I forgot I wanted to put mine just in my containers onto the one side, because I'm going to give them a little bit of extra seasoning on that side. The rice, I'm going to add some of this yuzu hot sauce. I'd never tried before, but wanted to try. This came from Trader Joe's, but yuzu is a flavor I've been experimenting with more and really enjoy. So I moved that to the one side, and then I'll cautiously, carefully lift the lid on my Instant Pot and see, like, there's still so much sauciness in there, which is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want it to be dry, because I also want to add in some frozen veggies. I'm going to add in some frozen broccoli and stir that up, and that sauce is still extremely hot. So if you want to turn it on to saute, you could. I don't like to add the frozen veggies into this type of thing, because I find that they get a little mushy if they've been in the Instant Pot for a long time. So by adding them in at the end, I can actually keep them a little bit fresher, and same for the cabbage. So if you want to add them in and have them cook way more, then go for it. But for me, I feel like this is a great way to kind of keep some of the freshness, not have them end up too mushy. Just personal preference for me. I'll get that all in there and get it stirred up, and we're almost done. I also had to get a little close up in here for y'all because just look at this. Oh, so good. This was really a delicious meal. Like, look how excited I am. Such a dork. Love it. So I'll get this portioned into the containers. Again, I decided to put this not on top of the rice. You could put it on top of the rice or, whatever else you want to serve it with. But I decided to keep them separate. So I'll get that portioned out with a little bit of sauce on top too. And then we're right at the end, y'all. And just like that, we made it to the very end. I was getting ready to finish the videos and then remembered, oh my gosh, I forgot that I was gonna add hot sauce to my lunch. I'll add that on here. Oh goodness. Sometimes, it's just keeping everything straight is a challenge. I'm sure it's probably true for everybody, but here we are at the end. What an exciting meal prep. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for your support. Thank you for sharing. You don't know how much it means to me, and please ask any questions. Can't wait to answer your questions or hear your comments and read your thoughts below, and I'll see you again next week. Have a wonderful week.